had always thought that at 68, nothing in life could surprise me anymore. You reach a certain age and begin to believe you've already lived through the big moments, the career milestones, the heartbreaks, the quiet mornings with coffee and someone you love beside you. Life settles into a rhythm. Predictable. Quiet. But it only takes one knock at the door to undo the silence. The leak started in the kitchen. Harmless at first. A slow drip from beneath the sink. I placed a bowl under it and ignored it for a few days, then a week. But eventually, the sound of water hitting metal every few seconds began to gnaw at my nerves. I searched through a pile of local contacts and dialed the number listed for Daniel, Plumbing Services. Felt mundane. Routine. I expected nothing more than a repair. He arrived the next morning. The knock was soft, almost unsure. I opened the door and was surprised to see a tall, clean-cut man in his early 30s standing on my porch with a modest toolbox in one hand and a warm, respectful smile. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. "You called about a kitchen leak." I nodded, motioning for him to come inside. "Yes, under the sink. It's gotten worse." As he crouched under the counter and got to work, I busied myself with small tasks, folding the dish towel, rearranging the spice rack, watering a plant that didn't really need it. I wasn't used to having strangers in my home. Especially not since Harold passed away 5 years ago. Daniel worked quickly, speaking only when necessary. But something about his presence put me at ease. There was no rush in his voice, no condescension, no judgment about the cluttered corners of a widow's life. "You've kept this place in great shape," he said after a while, glancing around. "Lived here long?" I smiled, surprised by the question. "Almost 40 years. My husband and I bought it when the neighborhood was still being built." He nodded thoughtfully. "It has character. You can tell it's been loved." That word, loved, caught me off guard. It had been a long time since someone described my home that way. I offered him coffee, and to my surprise he accepted. We sat at the kitchen table, two strangers bridging generations over mismatched mugs. As we talked, the conversation wandered. He told me about how he'd left his corporate job to do something more hands-on, something more real. I found myself opening up more than I expected. I told him about my career in education, the students I missed, the husband I still spoke to in my mind when the nights grew long. There was no flirtation, no suggestiveness, just genuine curiosity and mutual respect. But somehow that made it all the more powerful. Over the next few weeks, the leak turned out to be the first of many small household issues I needed help with. Faucet in the bathroom, a loose cabinet door, the backyard hose. And with each repair, Daniel returned, not just as a plumber but as a friend. Our conversations deepened. He began asking questions not just about the house but about me. "What do you do with your time these days?" he asked once. The question lingered longer than I expected. "I'm not really sure," I admitted. "Some days I read. Some days I just sit." He nodded. "Maybe you should paint." "Paint? You mentioned once you used to. Why not again?" I hadn't touched a brush in over a decade. Not since Harold's cancer diagnosis. But the next day, I pulled out the old set of oils from the hall closet. The tubes were dried and cracked, but the instinct came rushing back. I painted a vase of roses that sat in the kitchen window. Then I painted the light hitting the old chair in the corner. Then Daniel. He never posed, of course. But I painted his calm expression from memory. The way he leaned slightly when listening. The softness in his eyes. One day I mentioned the painting to him, half embarrassed. To my surprise he was moved. "Can I see it?" I hesitated, then nodded. He studied the canvas quietly. "You made me look kinder than I feel most days," he said softly. I replied, "You are kinder than most people ever take the time to notice." There was a long silence. It's strange how moments can stretch, how something unspoken can pass between two people and linger without being named. There was never anything romantic between us. But there was something. A recognition. A moment of being truly seen. Months passed. Spring turned to summer. And with it, my days grew fuller. I began painting regularly again. I signed up for a local art class. I made tea for myself in the morning instead of coffee, just to try something new. I started walking again. Long, meandering strolls through the neighborhood that once felt too quiet. Daniel still dropped by occasionally, always under the pretense of a repair or just to say hello. But eventually the repairs stopped. He got busier, his business growing through referrals and word of mouth. We drifted as all things do. But something had shifted in me. Something I hadn't expected. One evening I stood at my front window, watching the sun set over the same street I'd stared at for 40 years. And for the first time in a long while I didn't feel stuck. Felt alive. Plumber didn't change my life. Not really. But kindness did.